In this article, Uptake strategic principal Natalie Dale discusses some proposed methods for planning a pharmaceutical launch when you don't have all the answers. Picture this. You are 3 years out from launching your new product, and you are responsible as the commercial launch lead. Your company is currently enrolling patients for your phase 3 clinical trial, and questions are starting to be asked by leadership about the launch. Some colleagues feel that it is too soon to start planning and considering laying the foundations of a pharma launch strategy, seeing as there is only limited information available, a lot of uncertainties, and numerous other more immediate priorities to focus on. Still, you have a strong sense that you need to make a start. Is it ever too early to start pre-launch planning? No, not at all. The earlier you start, the better. Gathering insights takes time, and these insights will be key to informing a successful pharma product launch. Whilst there are a lot of unknown variables, the key message here is that you should not delay your pharmaceutical launch planning until everything is crystal clear. This is the time to start considering what gaps exist and what assumptions, therefore, need to be made until more information or data is available. Don't just take our word for it. What does the real-world evidence suggest? Over 80% of launches do not improve on their first 6 months' performance. Only 1 in 5 launches improve significantly between 6 months and 2 years. 2/3 of pharma product launches have underperformed analyst expectations. 50% of pharma product launches have failed to reach even 50% of external revenue forecasts. These daunting figures suggest that the first 6 months of launch are critical to success, and this initial stint typically sets the tone for the onward launch trajectory. Therefore, if it is critical to get the first 6 months right, planning and preparedness are more important than ever, and making an early start on your pre-launch activities could make all the difference. How to start planning your pharma pre-launch activity. You first need to identify and engage your cross-functional launch planning team. The launch team kickoff and the early pre-launch activities are a critical part of launch planning and ensuring you are equipped to navigate the early commercialization and launch landscape. This will set the tone and expectations for the launch and enable you to build meaningful differentiation for your brand to healthcare professionals and maximize patient benefits. This is also crucial to ensuring alignment across the cross-functional team. Think about having 2 launch teams, a core and an extended team. Who is involved in the core team may change closer to launch, but generally speaking, it is important to engage all functions as early as possible. Don't forget some of the less obvious roles too, like packaging, manufacturing, and distribution, which may differ if you are a global launch lead or a country launch lead. The cadence of launch planning meetings will be another important element of your product launch strategy, and will likely increase in frequency the closer you are to launch. Setting a target launch date provides an important reference point for the team to work towards. This date can then be used to map out launch milestones by working back from launch to highlight the key deliverables and the sequence required for launch. A really effective way to do this is by getting everyone face-to-face and mapping out the timeline up to and 6 months beyond launch. Although your current focus is the pre-launch planning efforts for 3 years, it is incredibly comforting to see the bigger picture up until and past launch. Anyone in doubt who believes that it is too early to start planning will fully see the importance of starting early after this activity. What are the next steps for your pre-launch activity? One of the most important factors now is to keep the momentum. Ensure each function is clear on its priorities and that these are tracked. We strongly recommend an action plan for the next 4 weeks and the next 3 to 6 months. This provides a breakdown of activities for everyone to work towards, making the timeline bite-sized and actionable, allowing for easier management. It is also super important to keep together as a pharmaceutical launch planning team, making sure to track progress across the actions and continue the cross-functional discussion with regular touchpoints with the launch planning team. So, with this in mind, how do you plan for launch when you don't have all the answers? Assumptions, assumptions, assumptions. The critical activity here is keeping a detailed log of all assumptions and routinely returning to them throughout the launch planning process. Scenario planning and risk mitigation are also critical elements of ensuring a smooth product launch. The essential takeaway from this piece is to get comfortable with uncertainty, acknowledge that you have identified your priorities for your current stage of launch planning. You have bite-sized action plans by function to make inroads with launch planning, and all of your assumptions are well informed and detailed in a log that is regularly returned to. One final consideration to reassure your planning efforts is to understand what best practice looks like for launch planning at 3 years before, as well as up to and beyond launch. How are you tracking against your launch excellence milestones and KPIs? How does your timeline of activities and milestones compare to this? What differences are there in your timeline to best practice and why? Keeping track of your progress like this can hugely reassure you in your launch planning efforts, while also challenging your preconceptions and guiding your next steps. In conclusion, the key elements to early pre-launch planning include mapping your journey to launch using your target launch date as a key milestone to work towards, understanding where you are at with your cross-functional pre-launch activities, prioritizing the gaps in your pre-launch plan, and getting comfortable with uncertainty while capturing and closely tracking assumptions. Starting early means that you have a robust strategic footing based on insights for launch. You can then continually revisit and adapt your launch plan based on the new information, data, and insights as they become available.